Welcome, dear friends, to Sangha Storytime. A Taste of Earth by Thich Nhat. Watermelon seeds. When Tim was 7 years old, he lost both his parents. Because he was a bright and eager child, he was accepted as a sailor's helper on a merchant ship which traded silk, medicine, spices, and sugar from India for sandalwood, anise, cinnamon, and pepper from Vietnam. One day the ship's captain let Tim tag along when he went to pay respects to Ting Hung Bong the Third. The king took an immediate liking to the boy, and when he learned he was an orphan, he offered to raise him as his own son. When Tim reached manhood, the king gave him his daughter, Oan, in marriage. Because Tim was fluent in several languages from his experiences aboard the merchant ship, the king placed him in charge of foreign trade. Tim quickly acquired great wealth. Profit was not his motive, however. He simply wanted to devote his best efforts to develop trade for the kingdom. Nonetheless, many at the court were jealous of him and claimed his success was due only to the king's favour. One day King Hanh summoned Tim and said, Tim, some say you are an ungrateful son. They claim you told them that your success is not due to any help from me. Did you say such a thing? Tim answered, Father, I am not ungrateful. I know very well that I could not be where I am today without all your generous support. I did say, however, that I enjoy good fruits in this life because of good deeds I did in former lives. When I was a small child, I was taught these lines. To know the seeds planted in former lives, look at the fruits reaped in this life. To know the fruits your future lives hold, look at the seeds you now sow. I have never forgotten those lines. I believe they speak the truth. The king asked, Do you believe, then, that because of your good deeds in former lives, you are adopted by me in this life? Yes, father, I do. King Hun was silent for a moment and then asked, Well then, suppose I banished you to a deserted island with no one but your wife and young son. Do you think you could survive? If I understand what you've just told me, you should reap good fruits no matter where you are, as long as you have sown good seeds in the past. Yes, father, I believe that to be so. The king was angered. Very well, I banish you, your wife, and your child to Sao Cho Island. We'll see how well your theory of seeds and fruits holds up. Resolute, Tim answered, As you wish, father. The following day, Tim, Oan, and the 6-year-old son, Ho, were carried in a small boat to the island. There they were abandoned with only enough food supplies to last a few months. Sport of them left for the mainland. Ho burst into tears, and Tim tried to console her by saying, Don't despair. If we have sown good seeds, we will reap good fruits. If we have sown bad seeds, tears cannot change our situation. Using our hands and wits, we'll find ways to survive. Don't remember the saying, nature did not create elephants without also creating grass. Placing her faith in her husband, Olam did not weep again. Together they built a watertight shelter of driftwood and palm fronds. They explored the island in search of edible fruits and greens, but found nothing. They had not been allowed to bring along any seeds, but they made their own nets to catch fish and shrimp and collect small flints to start cooking fires. They dried the extra fish and shrimp they netted. They only regretted they had no means to cultivate fruits and vegetables. By the end of the 4th month of their exile, the food supplies they had brought with them were exhausted. It looked as though they would be forced to live on nothing but fish and shrimp forever. Then one day they discovered a patch of unusual melons growing on the other side of the island. Each fruit was at least 3 times larger than any melon they had ever seen. When they cut one open, it was ruby red inside with black seeds. To their delight, it was wonderfully sweet. They shared the entire melon beneath the hot sun. It was cool and refreshing, and soon lifted their spirits. And Tim recalled how several weeks earlier the cries of a flock of cranes flying over the island caused him to look up. He had noticed a few black seeds drop from their beaks, but had given it no further thought. Who would have known they were the precious seeds of a new kind of melon? That evening, An Tim, Oan, prepared a garden patch and planted several of the black seeds. Just when An Tim began the first harvest, a foreign ship paid an unexpected visit to the island. Their sails had been damaged in a storm. An Tim helped them repair the sails and showed them where they could fill their barrels with fresh water. He also picked up and sliced one of the melons to offer the sailors. Finding the melon sweet and delicious, they asked An Tim if they could purchase more. An Tim traded 30 of the melons for rye, beans, salt, sugar, and cloth. He also told them that if they stopped by the island in another 4 months, he could provide them with several hundred more melons. In exchange, he asked them to bring grains and other provisions. They agreed. 4 months passed. The new melons were ready to pick. Even if the sailors did not return, An Tim and Oan had planted rye and red beans and knew now they had ample means to survive. Oan sewed them all new garments from sailor's cloth. And Tim named the melon after their son, telling his wife, "The special melon has provided us with a future. Our son is our future too. So we will call these melons Oan, Oan liked her husband's idea. Although she missed life on the mainland, she stood by her husband, placing complete faith in him. An Tim and Hal went for a stroll along the shore. Suddenly they heard Oan shouting something from their hut. "The ship is here, the ship." Ho jumped up and looked out over the sea. Sure enough, there was a ship, still no more than a speck. With each minute it grew larger until it reached shore. An Tim greeted the sailors and led them to the watermelon patch. Vines laden with jade-green fruit stretched along the sandy soil. They picked a great pile of melons, more than 600. And Tim exchanged the melons for many kinds of seeds, tools, and other provisions, which he and the sailors unloaded and stored safely in a cave on the island. An Tim's family continued to cultivate Ho's melons. The island's sandy soil was ideal, and their crop flourished. The merchant ship began stopping by the island every month to purchase melons to trade at other ports. The sweet red melon soon was in great demand. It wasn't long before An Tim was able to build a grand house for his family, surrounded by fields of rice and beans. He even raised livestock and hired workers from the mainland. 4 years had passed since they were exiled and sailed to Sao Cho Island. One day, Tim sent 20 of the finest melons to King Hanh III with a message that they were a gift from his adopted son, burdened with the tasks of running his kingdom. The king had forgotten all about Tim. The gift of melons jolted his memory, and he ordered a boat to carry him to the island. He wanted to see for himself how Tim had fared. When the king saw how Tim had built a successful life on a deserted island, he knew he had been wrong. He said, "My son, all you said about the seeds of the past determining the fruits of the future is clearly true. Your words were not those of an ungrateful son, as I mistook them, but the words of one who believes in taking responsibility for his own actions." The king asked Tim and his family to return to the mainland, and he gave Tim back his former post. Ho melons, or watermelons, were planted throughout the kingdom, and to this day, people recall the story of Tim when they taste the sweet red melon. And that's the end of Storytime for today.